Grass carp were first brought to New Zealand in the 1960s because of their potential to control the growth of aquatic plants. Grass carp are now being commercialised as a biocontrol agent and a food source.
Grass carp were introduced to New Zealand 50 odd years ago by the Auckland University to experiment with as a weed control agent. That worked really well, their experiments, and they wanted to go further, but they were having trouble breeding them. In 1989, it got down to only 9 fish left in the whole country that were able to be bred with. And so we were involved in that exercise from that time on, and we succeeded in breeding them. They're sold as biological weed control agents around the country, and they fetch a premium because of the size of them and the rarity of them. And that's been a successful business in its own right with both farmer and hatchery. Grass carp, in my opinion, are the next salmon of New Zealand. They're a beautiful fish, they're marketed as silverfin, and they're just great.
This actually reminds me when you cook it up a bit like gurnard actually, but it's got the texture of flounder. And I've just steamed this like the Chinese guy next door taught me, with ginger and spring onion, and they just warm soya sauce and put it on, steam it for 10 minutes. Most chefs will be able to adapt to using this fish quite well, you know, using all the normal recipes they usually use. They'll probably adapt to it quite well, actually, yeah.
They tick every box you can imagine of a fish farm species. Sustainable, meaning that they're coming from a farm and that they can be bred in captivity, etc. They're organically produced because it's easy to monitor, because they're vegetarian. And in fact, in New Zealand, we're making our own food because we didn't want to import anything that we couldn't guarantee was organic. Grass carp can't breed in the wild in New Zealand, haven't bred in the wild in 50 years. So if you put 100 fish into a location, you can never have 101. We've never had a disease outbreak in New Zealand of any carp diseases that are overseas. There's a carp herpes in Japan and Israel. We haven't got it here, and with our biosecurity being so tight at the border, it's unlikely that we'll ever get it. The biggest problem that grass carp's had in probably the whole 50 years of existence in New Zealand is that it's so confused with a thing called koi carp. Koi carp in the Waikato is a noxious animal. I refer to it as the opossum of the waterway. It's absolutely terrible, and a koi carp is a golden, goldfish-looking animal, grows to several kilos, and breeds prolifically in the wild in New Zealand, where your silverfin grass carp are absolutely impossible to breed. Their biological requirements need to be hatchery produced, which is fine, and it keeps full control over your genetics and the species itself. We're supplying fish to several farmers that have already got licences and have started production, which means that it's going to be on the table this year, and it's only going to go from strength to strength.
The business has two main aspects. One of them is weed control, supplying grass carp as a biological alternative to chemicals and herbicides. Grass carp are the only way that we can actually eradicate these exotic weed problems in New Zealand. We have some restoration projects where we've restored already 5 lakes in New Zealand, and we've got a number of other lakes we're doing. The advantage of grass carp is that once you put them in, the waterway is clear of weed all the time. You don't have to go back on an annual basis and spray. One of the biggest advantages is that you're converting nutrient to flesh, so you're actually improving water quality everywhere we use them. With the recent developments of irrigation dams in the South Island, we've noted that there's a lot of issues around loss of water storage capacity through exotic weed coming in, and we're discussing it with a number of those farmers down there now about using grass carp to keep their ponds at full capacity all the time. We actually work out a stocking rate that they will manage the weed within 2 summers, and then they will control all future weed growths from there on in. So we don't have to remove them because that's quite costly as well.
This program was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.